we informed them that keeping it was going to mean we were going to assess them, then maybe they might have come out and supported it differently. But we didn't tell them. We didn't give them a chance to do that, and that's what my concern is. I'm sorry, I just...
I think you make an excellent point. I suspect that at the time that can we have some silence, please? At the time, which I was not involved with in any way, shape, or form, but at the time that we made the decision to move from a Lake Worth Fire Department to the county, I would be willing to bet quite a bit that the public was not fully informed that there was going to be a charge that would be on the order of 1.2, 1.4, whatever million of money that we would have to come up with. I'm sure that that was not fully out there. And if it had been fully, perhaps we would not have made that choice. But that's history. That decision is made. We have to honor that commitment. And I think we owe it to our community to say, here we go. You want to pay the pensions, you want to do these things, you need a dedicated stream.
Or it's a reorganization of our priorities as a city, and that's what I think that we as a commission are doing right now. Commissioner Maxwell.
Thank you very much. I'm going to try to get everything out of one helping here. First of all, we've always had that fire pension obligation, and we've always had to pay it, and it's always been paid. Okay, we've always paid it. It's always been part of doing business or funding expenses, if you will, in the city of Lake Worth. You made an excellent point, Commissioner McFoy, when you said the option on the table. Well, the other option that we didn't explore was to simply deal with our obligations straight up and see what that looked like at the end of the day, and make a decision based on what that obligation represents. What we did is we demonized, once again, we threw red meat out there for everybody to get all excited about. You know, first it was the sheriff's office, then it was the fire service, and now it's the fire pension. Okay, even in the first 2 or 3 rounds of discussion about possibly repealing this, we threw red meat out there. You're going to have to give up this in the library. You're going to have to, you can't put a roof on Benny's on the beach. All we do is come up with reasons why we have to see it somebody else's way, instead of looking for reasons why we need to see it from the public's perspective.
Thank you.
Now, I would say to that, that had we not taken that path and taken a holistic look at what things would look like by honoring our obligations straight up, we could have made better decisions. But we didn't do that. Not only did we make the boogeyman the pension, but then we turned around and we added new jobs and we created new programs and we grew our government. Not just this year, but the previous year and the year before that. And we throw out buzzwords like investment, like it actually stands for something. Okay? Like it actually stands for something. I don't see any documentation that shows us that this particular expense or this particular initiative is going to yield us this type of result. Anything that's meaningful and measurable. What I hear is rhetoric. What I hear is the same tired talking points over and over and over again. As if we say it often enough, we're all going to buy into it. You know what? There's $833,000, according to the city manager's report, email that I received from her in late November. $833,000 in new positions in this budget. 830, almost $1 million. Then, when you go back, and by the way, then when you go back and you look at the approved budget, and I'll hand this out for everybody's future benefit, and you look at if you look at how we handled our budget, and you look at all the funds lined up against each other, and you look at their opening balances and their ending balances and use of fund balances, you see a little bit, what I perceive to be a little bit of a different picture about what our economic position really is. The problem we have around here when we talk about budgets, and this is part of the problem we have here, because we have so many enterprise funds, we have the utilities. We never seem to talk about everything at the same time in the context of their totality. We take everything in one bite at a time. We deal with this issue and say, well, this is what we have to do over here. Then we talk about this issue, we have to deal with this over here. But we never talk about how all those issues work together. Okay, and how one issue may positively or negatively impact the other issue. It's almost, and I'm using the poor choice of terms when I say this, but there's almost,
Mayor, could I ask for your assistance?
Yes.
We do have some rules about the public, and I would ask that you enforce that we
okay.
honor Commissioner Maxwell by asking that the public remain quiet during.
Public, if you would please keep your comments to yourself.
So, you know, I would just suggest, and again, I opened up my comment by saying, I don't say, well, somebody said we needed 2 more. Clark says we needed 2 more.
One page.
You know, and by the way, I think I might have an accompanying question or.
Are we reviewing Commissioner Maxwell's document, or are we reviewing?
He was passing this by. What I'd like to do is to say, I would like a consensus from us, if we could, to see, are there things that we still need to discuss with staff? Because I know some of the things that I suggested for cuts are not in that report. Are there any things that you saw that you would like to talk with staff about in regards to things, I don't know, that you were, or that just are, I don't want to touch them, you know what I mean, that should not be touched for whatever reason, and then if we could pare it down to something that we can then go through each issue item by item so that we know what are the concerns of each of us, or do we have to vote at what the priority is? And I don't know what the protocol is city clerk or city, or you know, on our direction.
Madam Mayor, having not been privy to your conversations with the prior city manager, I can't speak to whether she conveyed those appropriately to the rest of us or not. But I guess I would urge you, as a body, to tell us what it is that you would like to either look at further, that you would like for us to analyze in some further way. I believe that it is, it's prone to misinterpretation and prone to running through the filters that we all have in our heads when we have individual conversations with each of you about what it is that you are concerned about or have suggestions for whatever within the budget or changes in the changes to that. All of this is, it takes a fair amount of work to come up with the changes that you may or may not want to do. And it would help us a great deal if we knew as a group what it is you wanted us to look at, what it is you don't want us to look at, instead of us trying to make interpretations.
I totally agree with you, and that's why I'm asking for this, because I think that we need to just have finished meetings because of the changes that have taken place. That we need to have an additional meeting, at least all of us, in regards to what our priorities are and what they are not, and sit down. But we have to do this in front of everybody. We have to workshop each item and go through each item, and I want to do that, but I also don't feel that as if some of my suggestions are part of this report.
And so I don't know what those suggestions are.
And I don't know what they are either, so.
What I mentioned in the very beginning.
Maybe you could state, what are the things that you want to cut to come up with this money?
Well, what I said basically in the beginning was that I asked for a report in regards to what a 10% reduction in non-union staff above the $100,000 mark position was. I asked for that report and never received it. And also a 10% reduction in the city commission staff.
Okay, so your proposal is you want to cut salaries at the
I wanted to
executive.
I wanted to see what it looked like. I didn't necessarily, this whole thing you're saying I'm proposing to, this is a working document. Just like our budget, they're working documents. They change daily depending on who leaves, who goes, who starts, who finishes. Our budget doesn't sit there at the numbers that we look at this pretty report and see. It's never the same. The number's never going to jive because the report changes daily.
No, that's not true. The budget gets reviewed and voted on, and at that point, it is a stable document for everybody to see.
It is not a stable document because the returns on certain things that you think are going to happen are not necessarily that. The building permits may be more, they may be less. The employment may turn over, staff may change, salaries may not be doing. So really, these are working numbers. A budget is actually a working document. Even though the agreements to what you will tolerate on a number is something that you decide on, a budget is actually a working document. It changes daily. I should say a working
Well,
document. It
of
changes
course,
daily.
the finances of the city and things get spent, things come in, and they're not necessarily exactly what's predicted. Of course, that's true. But the budget, you put numbers on paper for everybody to see.